All right, what's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you step by step how to fill out a real estate sales contract. But not only that, if you want a free copy of the exact contract that I use for buying properties, please smash that like button, but also go down to the link below to my website where you can download the contract for free. So that being said, let's get started. And also full disclosure here, I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, and you should 100% run any contract through your attorney. So let's get started. So here we have the real estate sales contract, and this is only 2 or 3 pages. So I like to keep my contracts simple. Sometimes you'll see contracts that are like 30 pages long, and that's gonna confuse you. That's gonna confuse the seller. It's best to keep it simple. So here we go. Legal and binding agreement. Seller and buyer. So for this, I like to do things electronically typically. So seller, I'm gonna put. We'll just put like Joe Seller. You put their name, and you can mess with the font. You can make it a little bit bigger if you want. For this, for purchaser, you'd either put your LLC, We Buy Houses LLC, or you could just put your name, whatever you prefer. And sometimes you can even change it. If you put your name, but then you want to move it into an LLC, that's not typically a big deal. All right, so real property to be purchased. You would put the address, obviously, 1234 Main Street. We'll say Washington. Spell today, Washington, D.C. Zip code. Just put zip code 2005. And keep in mind, when I'm filling out this contract, if I'm purchasing it from a seller, I like to have pretty much everything filled out so that they only really need to put like their initial, their signature, the date, so that is pretty much like 99% done. You don't want to have the seller doing too much changing with the contract. So included in sales price, I'm not going to, I typically might just put NA. You're buying these properties as is. And this is an investor type of contract. This is not your standard real estate agent contract. So this is me just purchasing it as is. No realtor commissions, closing quickly, hassle-free type of sale. So then we come down, the purchase price, we'll just say it's $200,000. That'd actually be a good deal, no matter where you are in the DC area. $200,000. Okay, closing date. So I like to put on or earlier, so it leaves it open. Because sometimes I'll tell a seller, I'll say, look, we'll put in 30 days, but we'll try to get it closed sooner. I can't guarantee it, but we'll do our best to get it closed sooner. So on, we'll put like April 30th, 2020, just a random date. So on or before, deposit, this is the earnest money deposit. So anytime you go under contract, you need to put some type of earnest money deposit. You can put $1. It's not, probably wouldn't be taken too seriously. And I've seen some people put as much as like $50,000 or even more than that for an earnest money deposit. I typically just put $500. Every now and then the seller might say, hey, can you put a little bit more than that? So 500 is fine. I just have that written into the contract, and you typically have 5 days from going under contract to put it in there. And if you don't do it, I have in there that the seller has to give you written notice for you to do it, and then there's another 7-day period. So you have a little bit of time, but it's best to get that done as soon as possible. Condition of premises. This is basically just saying that you have the contract in as-is condition. If something drastic were to happen between now and closing, that would obviously change things. So I have this inspection contingency where it basically says contracts contingent upon buyer's partner's inspection and approval at any time before closing. So I'll typically have that in there, and I've only had to use it like basically once or twice. Next up, we have a lead paint addendum, and you can oftentimes just download these lead paint addendums online. It's just like a quick 1-page form. Warranty deed. This is basically just saying that the deed and the title can be transferred. There's no like liens and different things like that are going on. Adjustments. This is basically just saying that there's going to be like prorations and different things like that where the seller is not going to get stuck with the entire tax bill. Let's say it's all going to be prorated, and that's something the title company is going to handle. So you don't need to do that. So Maryland, if you were using this contract, you would just change it to like whatever state you were. Buyer's default. If the buyer fails to comply, seller shall be entitled to additional deposit funds. So basically your earnest money deposits. and possibly attorney fees if you were to default. But that's why I have the inspection contingency in there, which allows me to back out for pretty much any reason. So this is just risk of loss or damage, and a lot of this is like legalese. So you'd potentially be entitled to some type of amount if there was a fire or something like that, which is obviously pretty rare. This licensed party, so I just say that I'm a licensed real estate broker. You obviously would put something else if you were a licensed broker or not. Equal housing rights, fax transmission, complete agreement. This is just, again, legalese. This is basically just saying this would be the complete agreement. Buyer and seller acknowledge receipt of this. Oh, I forgot to do notice. Notice, this is basically just saying that it needs to be in writing if there's any type of changes and things like that. Buyer and seller acknowledge receipt of a copy of this agreement upon signing the same. So it's a pretty simple contract. This is just an example contract, only 3 pages. So if you want to do additional terms, you could put in there, seller to convey table and dining room. You can put in different things like that. And honestly, you might even want to put that up in the top part next to the fixture items. But here's where you can just put different terms that might come about. So it could be really anything. And then what you would do is you would basically just, I'm the buyer, so I would sign my end, and then what I would do is I would actually add the seller. So I would say set a signing order, and then if I was sending it to like Bob the seller, I put Bob at yahoo.com. And then so I would make it very easy for Bob the seller to just sign it, date it, and then once everyone's signed, you have a ratified contract. Oh, it's Joe the seller, not Bob the seller, but you get the point. So then you'd have a ratified contract, and once you have a ratified contract, you would just send this to the title company, and then they would get the process started. You would want to make your deposit, and then basically just get everything going to close on the house. So that's pretty much how you do it. Again, I would reiterate that whatever type of contract you use, try to make it as simple as possible. You shouldn't have to be a lawyer to understand the contract. Obviously you should have a lawyer look at your contract to make sure it's legitimate, but try to keep things as simple as possible for the seller. There's a famous quote. It says, "A confused mind says no." So if you have some very lengthy contract, it's just going to make things a little bit trickier and more difficult, and you might have to drive somewhere with like 40 pages to go through with the seller. So it's a lot easier if you can just do it via DocuSign. So I would recommend using DocuSign, which is the service that I'm using right now. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's the one I use in my real estate investing business. And I'll actually put a link below to DocuSign so you can sign up using my affiliate link. I do get a small commission, but again, I think it's the best service out there. It's very affordable, and it's very easy to use for you as well as for the seller. So check that link out, and then I'll also put a link to my website below where you can download the exact contract that I use. So between the contract I use and DocuSign, you should be pretty well set up as a real estate investor. And thanks for watching. If you have any comments, drop them below. And please like, please share, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. All right, bye.